Starting to feel squeamish yet? A little squirmy? People in our culture aren't really used to silence much. When we are with people and they're silent, our first thought is, what's wrong? What did I do? Or what did you do? And when we don't find out, we make up stuff. Today I'm going to talk about silence a lot. I want to share it with you because I think it's an important practice. We don't do it much in this tradition, but they do a lot in many others. There's a wonderful story about this monk who joined a silent order of monks. He was only allowed to speak once every 3 years, and then he could only say 2 words. At the end of his first 3 years, he came to the Monsignor. Monsignor said, well, what do you have to say? And the monk said, bed hard. Bless you, my son. 3 years later, he comes to the Monsignor, and the Monsignor says, well, now, what do you have to say? The man said, food bad. Monsignor said, bless you, went on his way. 3 years later, 9 years in silence, he comes to the Monsignor, and the Monsignor says, now, what do you have to say? The man said, I quit. Monsignor said, well, I'm not surprised. You haven't done anything but complain ever since you've been here. I want to be very clear that when I speak of silence today, I'm not talking about the silence. The silence has a special meaning for us in the spiritual community, especially in unity and other metaphysical realms. The silence represents that very private, deep, powerful inner place that we go where we contact the presence of the divinity within us. And we have this amazing sacred moment together. It's not a place with words. It's not a place of prayers. It's not a place of any kind of activity or ritual. It's that place we call the silence where our soul and God's soul commune together. It's a very sacred thing. And I am not talking about that. That happens as a result of a process of prayer and meditation. I've talked a lot about that already. I'm talking about something else. I'm talking about being silent. Being physically silent as a spiritual practice. This is part of a series of things that we're talking about, spiritual practices, things that we can do as individuals who want to grow spiritually, who want to evolve in our connection with God. The first thing we talked about, remember, was fasting. And I've had people tell me all kinds of great stories about it. And I know that whenever you're ready, those of you that aren't, it'll be ready for you. Now we're talking about another practice called being in the silence. I learned about this when I was reading a book called The Autobiography of a Yogi. It tells the story of Paramahansa Yogananda in 1935 when he went to visit the great Mohandas Gandhi. This is a picture of Gandhi here, and that's Yogananda sitting over next to him. The day that he arrived happened to be a Monday, and he didn't know it, but Gandhi had a practice every Monday of not speaking, of being silent. So he arrived on the Monday, and Gandhi wrote him a note and says, I'm sorry, I can't speak to you today. It's my day of silence. I will speak to you tomorrow. And when I read that, there's something about it that just hit me. You know, sometimes you read things and you just got to reread them because you know that's for you. I read it and I said, oh, that is amazing. I have to try that. So I did. Now, my day off is Tuesday. And so I decided I would try on a day off to be silent. Now, I'm the ADHD king. I'm the president of our local chapter. And so you realize it's going to be really hard for me to sit around for 3 or 4 hours and read metaphysical books and spiritual things, you know. So I can do that for a while. But then I also thought, what's the point of choosing to be silent if you go into a cave and you're in silent and no one is there? What's the blessing in that? I know a lot of people in this church who live alone, and I could say, I want you to be in silence. They'd say, no problem, I'm quiet all day. There's nobody to talk to. So the challenge in being silent is not so much in being silent, but being silent in a world full of noise. Being silent in a world where there's all kinds of people talking and choosing not to be in that world. Now that's special. So I knew I was going to do this. I made for myself a little button. It looks kind of like those. This is the one I wear. It says, I am observing silence today. I'm going to change the button because it's confusing. I'm going to change it to, I'm being quiet today. Or maybe, I'm not speaking today. That would be more clear. Because, let me tell you why. I go to the gym early in the morning. Like I try to be there around 6 o'clock. And there's a group of us that meet. Well, I go 5 times a week, and we're always there. Oh, hi. Well, the first time I'm going, I wear my button. Now, I wear the button for a couple of reasons. I still wear the button. I wear the button to remind myself, because I can always feel it, and I know, I'm just remembering. But I also do it because when people talk to me, I can go. So I go into the gym, and the guy greets me, and he's all full, hey, how are you doing? Oh. So I grab my little mat, and I go off in the corner to do my yoga stuff, and I'm sitting there, and I notice something's really different in the gym. He turned off the music. The entire gym is in silence, except for the clanging of the stuff and people grunting and things. There's all this other. So I couldn't wait for the next day to go and explain to him, I am in silence, but you can talk and you can play the music and do all the noise. I noticed when I went to Starbucks and ordered my tall blonde coffee with room for cream, blah, 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 right? Now they see the button, they go, oh, you're in silence. And they all get whispery. So silent. It's like, I'm sorry, I'm talking. No. I'm the one that's in silence. That's why I have to change the button. It's not like I'm wanting a world of silence, and so everyone be quiet all around me. All the noise is parting like the Red Sea, and even the gym is quiet. It's not about that, but I noticed I have to change the button because that's it. It's about me not speaking. So I did it that first Tuesday. And I'll tell you, I was incredibly surprised at the gifts that came from that. The phenomenal gifts that I didn't expect. I didn't really know. I just did it. It was profound. And I have done it every Tuesday since now for the last 2 years. And I'm here to speak to you and give you testimony on what an amazing thing that is to do for yourself. There is power in spiritual practice of any kind. There's power in any kind of a practice. No baseball player gets good just because he's born good. No golfer gets good just because he's born that way. There's hours and hours and hours of practice. This spiritual practice, this is what I want you to commit to doing it. And if you try it, and like meditation, well, I tried meditating, but it didn't work. It's not like that. It is a practice that we grow into. Some psychologists did some research with the Berlin Institute of Art once. They were studying violin students, and they wanted to know what's the difference between really great violinists and really good violinists, and then in their own language, and this is not mine, violinists who became elementary school music teachers. And I love elementary school music teachers. It's not about that, and that was their language. But it's like, who was like the superb virtuosos. They started with students who were 5 years old, all studying violin. And for the first 3 years, all of them practiced 3 hours a week. And then at the age of 8, there was a change. The ones who became the superb and excellent violinists practiced 10,000 hours. The really good ones practiced 8,000 hours, and the elementary school ones practiced 4. What they determined from that is that all of the greatness that we see in this world is not a result of innate born talent and ability, though that has some impact, but it's more the result of our willingness to practice and to refine what we have as gifts in the world. Now, you've heard this phrase, practice makes perfect. You heard that? Did your mother tell you that? It's not true. Sorry. Practice makes permanent. So if you practice something wrong, it's going to be permanently wrong. The kind of practice I'm talking about is what I'm calling deliberate or intentional practice. It's practice where you're paying attention to what you're doing, and you're always stretching yourself to go a step further, or maybe a little faster, or more accurately, or with great expertise. It's practice that has a deliberate goal to it, a goal of expansion and development. Spiritual practice is important. So as we talk about all the spiritual practices, I want you to understand These are things that we begin and then they evolve in ourselves. When we are silent, we find God. Now that sounds a little weird to say in a unity church because God isn't lost, okay? We know where God is. God is right here always with us. But we are lost in the chaos of life sometimes. We get distracted. I don't know about you, but I do. There's lots to distract us. There's television, internet, cell phones, blah, blah, blah. And then there's people. The world's full of them. And they're all very distracting in their own way. And then there's situations, and it just goes on and on and on. And so sometimes we get distracted by this, and we don't really see God there. But here's the gift of being silent. There is an opportunity to find God. You know that scripture, and I bet you know it. I'm going to start it and see if you can finish it. It's from Psalms 46:10 for those of you that went to Baptist Bible College like me. Be still and know that I am God. See, licensed unity teacher here. There she, oh, yeah. Be still and know that I'm God. You've all heard that somewhere, right? Most of all of us heard that. That's from the Psalms. It's beautiful. And it says, like, be still. And that's where we know that I am God. One of my favorite currently used translations of the Bible is called the Message. The Message version, and it's translated directly from the ancient Greek text in an idiomatic translation, which means it's in common English. I want to share with you that same verse, but in this translation, because it really speaks to me and says, oh yeah, I know exactly what that means. The verse is, in King James, be still and know that I am God. Now this is it in the Message. Step out of the traffic. Take a long, loving look at me, your high God. It's kind of like saying, step away from the car. Stop. Get out of the traffic. That movement of life. Be still. And then take a long, loving look at God. That's beautiful. And that's kind of what happens. Habakkuk was a wonderful Old Testament prophet who, in his book, asked God all these profound questions. And one of the answers he got was, but oh, God is in his holy temple. Quiet, everyone, a holy silence. Listen. And where do we know that temple is? Who knows where the temple of God is? Yeah, it's right here. It's always right here. This is the sacred temple of God right inside each and every one of us. And look what it says. Quiet, everyone, and listen. That's beautiful. Mother Teresa said, we need to find God, and he cannot be found in noise and restlessness. God is the friend of silence. So the first thing to understand is that if we can do this practice, this intentional practice of silence, then there is an opportunity for us to increase our awareness of God in the Holy Temple. And I'm going to tell you, that's a good thing. We also find wisdom, and that part of that is because God is the source of all wisdom. But we do find it when we're in that silence place, it's incredible wisdom comes. Gandhi says, in the attitude of silence, the soul finds the path in clearer light, and what is elusive and deceptive revolves itself into crystal clearness. I love that. Deepak Chopra says, silence is the great teacher, and to learn its lessons, you must pay attention to it. There is no substitute for the creative inspiration, the knowledge, and the stability that comes from being in the silence. So you don't have to raise your hands, but who wants more knowledge and stability and creative intelligence and all those good things? Of course we want all that. Summing all of this up very, very beautifully is the Course in Miracles that says, in quietness are all things answered, and is every problem quietly resolved. Now again, you don't have to raise your hand, but let me think for a second. Gee, do I have any problems? Do I have anything that needs to be resolved? Do you? You don't have to raise your hand. My guess is maybe one or two of you do. And it says, in the quietness, in the silence, every problem is resolved. And that's because the wisdom comes there, and that's because we encounter that divine presence. The last thing is, there are so many gifts that come, but I wanted to pick three for you to just talk about, is that I believe that in the silence, there's this point of stopping and breathing deep, but what really comes from that place is an amazing sense of power, believe it or not. We think sometimes that being quiet is a sign of weakness, that being silent is a sign of insecurity and not knowing, and somehow it's not a strong place to be, but it's actually exactly the opposite. Charles Fillmore is the co-founder of Unity, and he says, all power has its birth in the silence. There is no exception to this rule. In all the evidence of life, noise is the dying vibration of a spent force. Oh, I'm going to read that again because we got to think about that. This is powerful stuff. Noise is the dying vibration of a spent force. All the clatter of visibility from the harangue of the ward politician to the thunder's roar is but evidence of exhausted power. This is powerful stuff. Do you understand what he's saying? Is that all the stuff we're hearing, it's over already? That every sound I speak is over already. It began as a thought. And that thought, all the noise I'm making right now, this moment, is a spent force. It began as a quiet thought, and that thought came to me in the quietness of my office upstairs. It started in that silence, and then it formed into thoughts, and now I'm speaking it to you words, and you know what? Then it's done. Unless it sticks in you and it stirs up some thoughts in you, and then it begins to change the way you live your life. Then the force continues, but I've spent it. How amazing is that? So in the quietness, all the power is born. If you want more power in your life, if you want more strength to face all the situations that we have to face, if you want more courage, if you want any of those things that will make you stronger, that will fulfill your life more, they start and are born in the quietness. So many gifts come from that. So you say, well, I don't know if I can do a whole day. I don't know if she can do a whole day. I wish she could. I've heard it all. I tell you, I wore my buttons so many things, and all these guys said, gee, if you got another one of those, I want to give this to some. They don't want to wear it for themselves, but they want to hear, would you please wear this? As with any spiritual practice, and this is one of the things I love so much about Unity, is that we give you the teaching, and then you put it on like a coat and you wear it, and if it fits, good. If it's not quite fitting yet, then you can tailor it to make it work just right for you. So here is my challenge for you, is to decide what you can do. You may say, well, I can't do a whole day, there's too much to do. I could do from 9 to 12. 3 hours. Okay, great. Fantastic. Because I believe there will be so many wonderful gifts in that 3 hours that the following week you're going to make it 4. And the following week you may make it 5. And then you may make it 6, and then who knows. If you're like me, I want to do it more than 1 day a week, but I haven't quite figured out how to be a full-time minister here and come to work and not talk to people. I like to make a counseling appointment with Reverend Sky. Sorry. He's not speaking. Is it personal? What did I do? So pick some time you can do. Even if it's an hour, even if you say, well, I can do 30 minutes, well, then do 30 minutes. But make it a practice. Make it an intentional, deliberate practice for yourself. Because I know the blessings will come. Do you understand? If we want to evolve as spiritual beings, it's what we can do. So here is my suggestion for a commitment. And notice there's no time limit on it. It just says, I commit to a time of silence in my life. I commit to a time of silence in my life. Can you do it? Let's say it. I commit to a time of silence in my life. And let's say it again. I commit to a time of silence in my... Now I want you to say it quietly in your head, no words. Delicious. I'm going to invite you to close your eyes with me for a moment. In this part of our service is what we call a meditation. It is the place where we come to that temple inside ourselves, where we meet with that holy and divine presence. And I ask you in this moment to check in with the God of your own being. And just say, how much do you want me to do? Is this for me to do now? And then whatever answer you get, that is the answer you should follow. Never any other. In these quiet moments, feel the power, find the wisdom as you encounter God in the sacred and holy silence.